Hi guys, this is Concise Reviews, and today I'm going to show you some simple steps you can take to make the battery on your Samsung S9 or S9 Plus last much longer. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago I did a video on why you should upgrade to the S9 or S9 Plus, and you can check that by clicking the link in the top right here. And while they are amazing phones, the one sort of bugbear that I've got is that the battery life hasn't really improved from the S8 or S8 Plus. So the capacities are the same and you're still going to be reaching for your charger at the end of every day. With that in mind, I've been looking at the most simple ways that you can help save your battery life. There are some really obvious ones, such as turning off Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, mobile data, etc. But I've tried to focus on ones that are easy for you to do and won't affect your day-to-day use. Okay, the first easy step that you should definitely do is turn off the always on display. I mean, as cool as it is to have the time and your notifications displayed without turning your screen on, for me, it's not really essential. You're going to be looking at your phone anyway, and even Samsung say that this drains 1% of the battery every hour. So over a 24-hour period, that's nearly a quarter of your battery life. And to be honest, as that's coming from Samsung, I'd imagine that's a pretty favourable estimation. And it's also worth remembering that you've got the colour blinking LED light to show you when you do have a notification. So not very essential, and it's really easy to turn off. You just unlock your phone, drag the top down and hit the cog. In the search bar, just type in always on, and it'll come up as the top option, so just click on that and then just hit the toggle to turn it off, and then you're done, and that'll save you a chunk of battery life come the end of the day. Right, the next thing to remember is that the biggest drain on the battery is your screen, and the brighter the screen, the more it's going to drain your battery. Now you can obviously just turn the brightness down manually, but something else to remember is that everything you have on your screen, your wallpaper, your keyboard, your widgets, if you can make them as dark as possible, it's going to use up a lot less battery power, especially with Samsung's AMOLED screens, where the true black areas use up virtually no battery power. There's some easy steps you can take to achieve this. For the first one, if you go into Settings and scroll down to Wallpapers and Themes, then click Themes at the bottom. Here you can basically download different sort of styles and colour designs for your phone. So if you go to the bottom, there's some free ones which you can get, which are pretty good, or you can pay for one if you'd prefer. This is one that I downloaded just to show you guys. It's called SD Black, and if we click into that, you can see it's very dark. All the menu, the dial is dark, and then you can apply that. Okay, that's taken about a minute to apply, but you can see now the wallpaper's gone really dark. If you drag down the top, the settings box is dark. And if you go into the full settings, that's obviously got dark background as well. And that's consistent throughout the phone now. You'll have much darker menu, so it's going to use up much less battery power. The other things you can do in sort of a similar vein to that, wherever you have an option for an app or a widget to make the background darker, use that option. So I've got the Google widget here as part of Nova Launcher. I've got a dark background. On my other page, I've got a dark grey background for some of my other widgets. And then things like WhatsApp and SwiftKey, you can change the themes and backgrounds for that to dark colours as well. Now, having a fully black wallpaper, I appreciate it's a bit boring, so you might want to go to that extreme. But if you just keep that in your mind to keep everything as dark as possible, that's going to make a difference to your battery life. Okay, another very easy one, as you probably know, if you drag down the top, you've got this option for power saving mode. Now with older phones, I found that going into this slowed the phone down and you sort of noticed that it wasn't performing the same. With the S9 Plus, I have to say there's literally no noticeable difference to daily use. So you can either just push it to turn it on, or you can go into the full settings. So we'll put it on mid, and it basically tells you what it's going to do if you apply that. So we'll do that, and it's going to add a couple of hours to our battery life. So things like decreasing the brightness, slightly changing the screen resolution. And then while you're in this section, you can check out the app power monitor, which is really useful because it shows you the apps that have been using up your battery whilst you haven't actually been using the app. So for some reason, Google Translate's been using 1% of my battery in the last hour. And you can go through these and tick the ones that you want to completely put to sleep whilst you're not using them. Now, one thing to bear in mind is this will completely shut down the app, so you might not get notifications, for example, but I'm going to go through these and tick now the ones that I don't need to be running in the background. And once you've done that, you just hit fix now, and that will completely put them to sleep and save a lot of battery power. The next one that can make a bit of a difference is the vibration of the phone. Don't forget that when your phone vibrates, it's a small motor in your phone making that happen. So if we can reduce that, we're going to save a bit of battery, and that's real easy to do. Just drag down the top, hit the settings cog, go straight into sounds and vibration, and you've got an option called vibration intensity. So if we just hit that, you can just drop all these down a bit, and it sort of gives you the feedback as you're doing it to show you how intense it will be. To be honest, I think it's still quite strong once it's really low, so you can drop all these right down, especially the feedback where you only need a real little bit, I'd say, and that's going to save battery, especially if your phone's buzzing away all day long. Something I'm guilty of, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are as well, is keeping tons of tabs open in Google Chrome, and having all these web pages ready for you to dive straight back into does have an effect on the battery. So a good thing to get into the habit of doing is just keeping that number down. So just click the number of tabs, hit the menu button, and close all tabs, and that'll get rid of them all and help save your battery a bit. Now, I wasn't aware of this until recently, but your phone is constantly scanning for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, even when they are turned off, to give you better location accuracy. So this is something that you want to turn off. I found that having it turned off doesn't affect my use of GPS or anything, for example, for Google Maps. Go into settings, search for accuracy, and it'll be the first one that comes up, improve accuracy, and you just want to make sure that both of those are turned off. Something else to remember is that sometimes apps can be quite system intensive when they maybe don't really need to be, depending on how you're going to use them. A culprit of this is Facebook and Facebook Messenger, so it's worth installing the light versions of these apps, which were designed for use with slower and older mobile devices, but if you put them on your up-to-date mobile phone, it's going to use less battery and less data. So search the App Store for light versions of some of the apps that you use the most and get them installed if you can. Okay, the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is going to really help you in the long run, is the importance of looking after your battery and preserving its lifespan. And there's some simple steps you can do to achieve this. I didn't realise it was such an issue. I thought lithium-ion batteries were fairly robust, but after testing some different chargers on my S7 Edge, I downloaded an app that showed me that 1/3 of my battery capacity had gone after not even 2 years. So I really don't want to make that same mistake with my S9 Plus. I want to keep this as healthy as possible. Now, you may have heard that with phone batteries, to keep them in good shape, it's healthy to keep them charged right from 100, then down to 0, then up to 100, then down to 0. And that is completely the opposite of what you should do, and that's going to definitely damage the battery. The best way to look after these is to try and keep them topped up throughout the day if you can, between 50 and 90%. Obviously that's not always practical if you're out and about, but something that I find really helps is if you keep a wireless charger, maybe keep that on your desk or wherever you're working. If you just drop it on there a few times a day, you should be able to easily keep it above 50%. Now, going over 90% can be a bit too much, and that can slightly damage the battery, so that's the sort of ideal threshold between 50 and 90. If you can keep it there as much as you can, you're going to see the benefits after a year or 2 years with your phone's battery. Something else to consider is that keeping these batteries cool is going to help them. If these batteries overheat or get too hot, then that can damage them and reduce the capacity over time. So just little considerations like keeping them out of the sun. If you're using your phone as a sat-nav in a car, maybe take the case off so that it can breathe a bit more. And if you've got the heating going up onto the windscreen, just maybe turn that down a bit. Keeping your phone cool is going to help preserve the battery life. On the subject of the wireless charger, I would recommend getting an official Samsung one. You can get cheaper ones, but they tend to overheat slightly, and obviously, as I've just mentioned, heating up your phone could damage it. Now, the S9 and S9 Plus by default has fast wireless charging turned on, which is great if you need it charged quickly and need to get out, but that doesn't help the life of the battery over time, so I'm going to have that turned off, and that's really easy to do. You just scroll down the top, hit the settings, search for fast wireless, and it comes up as an option, fast wireless charging, and then you can just turn that off. So for me, I tend to charge my phone overnight on a wireless charger and whilst I'm at work at my desk, so I don't really need fast wireless charging, so that's going to do for me. Again, it will depend on your preferences. Okay, that's my top tips on maxing out the battery life on your S9 and S9 Plus. I think individually they're going to have minimal impact, but if you combine a few of those together, then the sum of that should leave you with quite a few percent battery left by the end of the day. Hopefully this was helpful to you. If it was, please like the video and hit the subscribe button, and stay tuned for more from Concise Reviews.